I'm Vernon Ramesar, and my guest today is no stranger to media, Mr. Emmett Hennessy, who is, of course, a radio personality for many years, a musician, former actor, and, of course, survivor of the 1990 coup attempt. Emmett, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. We've known each other a long time, so
yeah, sure.
It's like a little reunion we're having here.
Why not? Why not? I'll drink to that.
Of course, I will too. I'll talk about your other aspects of your life, the radio and the media and things like that, and music. But let's talk about the 1990 coup attempt, because it's back in the news again, having been now reopened in the form of a Commission of Enquiry.
Hallelujah.
Your feelings about that, you're very happy, obviously.
I'm unlike a few other people which surprise me with their negativity, I am happy. I'm always happy. Like, that's why I'm here today. There's a whole new generation have come up, you know, who aren't even really aware. Well, they're kind of half aware of it, you know. And I don't know how much awareness they should have, but it is a major historical aspect of TNT life. And people like me can set the record straight. There's still a lot of misinformation out there, even in the press and the media, you know. They call people hostages that weren't hostages. They called me a hostage last week. I wasn't a hostage, you know. And it's crucial that we get it right. So while I'm still alive, I'm happy to come on and set that record straight. Regarding the commission, as you asked me, yes, that's another way to set the record completely straight and to document it as well. And if anybody has any skeletons in their closet, I would love them to come rattling out, you know, because I'm kind of feeling very vindictive about the whole thing. I feel there wasn't enough justice done, any justice done, and even at this late stage, if I could see any kind of recrimination brought to the fore, it would ease my soul, which is still a troubled soul regarding that time.
And there are many stories that haven't been told, aren't there?
Absolutely there are. You know, there are forgotten people. There was a man that I used to work at Radio Trinidad at that time, and every Wednesday, I believe it was, a gentleman used to come from the GBU, the Government Broadcasting Unit, nice little chubby fellow with a moustache, and he used to bring the government tapes for us to air, you know. And how much more innocent and uninvolved could you be? The poor fellow's been dead for 20 years. He was shot on that day. Mervyn Teague was his name, you know. May he rest in peace. But, you know, that brought the reality home to me, because this was a face I saw every week and said hello to and chatted with, you know. And his wife and kids now have been without him for 20 years. Very sad.
And yet it seems so many people in our nation are happy to think, well, we're healing from that, we're over it. But there's such a thing as healing badly, isn't there? There
is such a thing as healing badly, and maybe covering over a scar inefficiently, you know. There's good, as you say, there's good healing and there's bad healing, and I think we're just cosmetically healing, you know. And as I say, I think when we find out really who was involved, maybe behind the scenes, or who knew what, then the scar could heal. There'll always be a scar, but it'll heal better. It may not bother anybody that was distant from it, but there's a good few hundred of us that were on a first-hand basis, and I think we deserve that kind of healing, you know, still.
Do you think there are people who are walking the corridors of power now, or perhaps have in the past, that knew more than they've let on?
Well, this is what I intimated a while ago about the skeletons in the closet, you know. You hear quotes about, that's, I'm misquoting here, but something about that's just a quarrel between that government in power and the Muslimin, and then there was the wake me up when it's over, you know, and then there were people that should have been in Parliament that day and for no good reason weren't. These are the questions I would like to be pointedly asked at those people, and just see how well they can answer those questions.
Do you still find it painful to think about that time?
Absolutely. I can still cry at the drop of a hat.
Well, I'm hearing the emotion in your voice now, actually.
Okay, all right. I only hope I don't break down on this program. It wouldn't be the first time, you know.
Yeah.
I sit at home with my wife, Alison, and not so much now, but for the first 10 years, you know, there'd be lots of times when we'd be watching something on the TV, and it would evolve into somebody running. It could be a drama, not reality, but it might be Afghanistan, and you'd see the AK-47s banging away at somebody, and you're not expecting it, but it just comes flooding back. And it's like a tidal wave of emotion that just hits me. And I just start to cry, and Alison knows fine well, and we changed the station one time, you know. So to answer your question, yes, it really does. When I was at the memorial service on the actual day, the 20th anniversary at the Red House by the flame there, we were all standing up because the trumpeter was playing something, the army trumpeter, and I thank God I had my shades on, but he played The Last Post, and that's a very poignant, very sad piece of music, as you know, this is The Last Post, and I'm a sentimental person at the best of times, and I just stood up there, and as those sad strains were wafting, thank God we were all facing front, so nobody was looking at me, but I could feel my mouth trembling, and I didn't make any noise, but I was bawling my eyes out for it. But I managed to control it, and it subsided before he'd finished, But so yes, it's something you can't control. It's a spontaneous knee-jerk reaction that just happens. So that's what tells me that I'm not cured and probably never will be,
What is the main question? Is it why did it happen, or is it just the events themselves?
I guess
how people can treat other people.
I guess I approach it from a very personal point of view. I feel violated, quite honestly, because I've never bothered anybody really in my life. I was just there doing my work on that day, and in the blink of an eye, it's not like if you're a soldier or a policeman and there's a conflict going on where you're out there and there's always a possibility of danger, I was just there as a relatively young married man doing a job that I loved, and within seconds I was running for my life, jumping over rooftops, doing athletic feats I never could repeat again, and not knowing the hell why. What the hell is happening to me, Why is these men trying to kill me? And so my anger, as I say, is on a personal basis. I feel that nobody had the right to do that to me. I did nothing to anybody. And so I have to selfishly say my vexation is very personal, But I also feel very strongly that the then president, or was it Prime Minister then, A.N.R. Robinson, hasn't had the kind of recognition that he well deserved. I was just thinking the other day about all the quotes in history, like in the French Revolution when the Frenchman was going on the chopping block, "'Tis a far, far better thing now than I've ever done before." Another one said, my only regret is that I only have one life to give for my country. Then there was an American admiral that said, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." To me, they've all been documented in the annals of history, and yet how many people really ever quote "attack with full force"? This elderly man was wounded, he was tortured, they told him to tell the troops to back off, otherwise, that was the end of him. What kind of bravery does it take to say, in the face of that, attack with full force, And I think that man is a true hero, and I think he was vilified to a certain extent, on a political basis. I don't know what the problem with him was, but he was vilified and not nearly enough recognition, and I think he's a wondrous person, A.N.R. Robinson.
Well, looking at you, Emmett, I mean, you've made a life, whether here or abroad, out of bringing joy to people's lives. Entertainment,
Good
I mean,
point.
you're famous for your humor. You chose, at a certain point in your life, to settle in Trinidad and Tobago with Alison. I guess it must have been something of a tropical paradise for you at that time.
Yeah, it seemed that way, before the realities set in.
Right.
Nothing's perfect,
But when 1990 happened, did that change the way you view this country, the level of brutality that can be meted out by
I guess
certain
it
people?
did, yeah. I was disappointed in the fact that before this nation just retreated into their barracks and bemoaned what happened, they took it as an opportunity to get out there and fly in the face of the sadness of it and just loot, opportunistic, I guess this will happen in many countries, but I would have liked to have seen more of an outpouring of of concern and sympathy for those of us wounded and for what was happening in the country. But no, the streets were just flooded with people saying, okay, this is my chance, you know. That disappointed me.
And of course, there were people who were at coup parties
during
those days, which is a little insensitive as well, one would think.
That probably evolved 2 or 3 days later. But yeah, that was, well, I don't know if that was insensitive. I think that was just a protective coat saying, well, it's happened, let's make the best of it, you know. It was in a controlled environment. They weren't hurting anybody. They were just trying to get some fun out of life in a very unfun era in our history, you know. But to get back to your question about how I feel, I guess it did change my perspective to a degree. Not so much that it turned me against Trinidad and Tobago, it just made me realize that nowhere is perfect and life is never a constant. There'll always be something waiting around the corner that you have absolutely no control over, and it could happen at any time, you know. So it probably made me appreciate the old cliche, you know, that your life becomes more real and vibrant, and you don't take anything for granted anymore. You know, that's one aspect that you could maybe call a positive. You know, yeah.
Do you think it was something of a turning point in terms of violence in this country as well? Because we've seen violence reach really alarming proportions now, and some people have said that may have started with the events of 1990, or become exacerbated, perhaps would be a better choice of word.
It may have made people, well, you know something, getting back to one of my earlier points about there's been no real price to pay by the assailants, it may have made other young people of the same ilk realize, well, you know, I could pick up a gun and get out there. It's pretty easy to do. And they got away, and I'll get away too. And it could have put that mindset into the youth of the nation to a certain degree, yeah. I think it is a contributory factor that they saw that violence is not that hard to perpetrate. You just get your gun and you get out there and you do your thing, you know. It certainly has grown, as you say, exponentially. Whether or not that was just part of the growth of a nation or to do with that, I can't say for sure, but it might be, you know.
No, obviously the events themselves were traumatic, but it seems to me that, as you mentioned, people did not pay a price for what happened. No. And years afterwards, you see Yassine Abubakar on television, speaking to the media, things like that. Yeah. Does that stick in your craw a little bit?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, these are all the things that, you know, I have a lot of pent-up anger. You know, people have asked me if it changed me, you know, my personality. And I have to say it did, because I noticed in my own self that I'm a lot more impatient. There's a certain bitterness in my personality. You know, people, it's 20 years now, so that a lot of people I know say that I'm not a very friendly person and all that, and I appreciate that. It's true. Unless I know you very well, and I've always been a shy person even before, even though it may not seem that way, ironically, because of what I do. But what I do is...
A lot of radio people are fundamentally quite shy.
Yeah,
so you're alone in the studio.
Because you're alone in the studio and you can really manifest. But so consequently, it has, I think it's affected my personality, and I try my best to overcome that, but it's not easy. But what was the rest of that question again?
Well, no, but I want to follow actually from that, because, I mean, unlike the average person, you're a media person.
Yeah.
You go on the air. I mean, we all listen to you. I mean, for years and years we've been listening to you. How do you not have that transfer to the media persona that you have? The Emmett that cracks these sort of very dry jokes that we all look forward to.
Yeah. I think I look forward to it. To me, you see, in as much as I explained to you my real inherent personality, I'm so happy to be able to, you know, it's like Superman going into the telephone booth and taking off his old reporter's suit and coming out as Superman. In a way, it's analogous to that, in that I get now to be who I really would like to be in reality, you know? And I come on the air and I can be Mr. Nice Guy, which I think deep down I am, you know? But I'm a bit too shy and wary of people to manifest it in reality, but I can do it on the radio, you know?
So it is really you that we're hearing.
It's really me, yeah, absolutely. You know, you can't do this for 33 years for hours per day, and it's not really you. That may even be the real me, you know. But the other part of your question was right, and when I see them on the TV, I saw there was a documentary a few nights ago put together by Francesca Hawkins and her crew at UE, and they actually showed the Abu Bakr thing on the TV6 where he came on that night, which I hadn't seen since the night I saw that. And it reaffirmed what I thought he had said, that do not worry, we do not intend to hurt anybody, and so on and so forth, you know, which is one of the reasons why I wore my bloodstained shirt to the wreath-laying ceremony on the anniversary, because there he is saying that, and there was me, at the time he was saying it, in the General Hospital, with this shirt soaked in blood, with a bullet wound through my arm, and I say to myself, well, okay, you're lying, you know, as simple as that. Look at me and other people that are lying dead right now. So when I see that, so that old shirt, which I hadn't seen for 20 years, was my proof that what he said was a load of crap, you know.
Well, I mean, how can you say it with any honesty when you obviously have people running around with guns? We have shots of them hitting rifles on people in the Red House.
Yeah,
you blow up the police headquarters.
Yeah, but the masses that he was talking to at that time were spread out across Trinidad and Tobago, and they weren't witness to that. So he was just trying to make his points, which would forward his case. He even said the regiment's on my side, and that all of that was false. We know that. So it was just a diatribe that he was putting out to consolidate what he hoped was going to be the coup, the overtaking of the nation. And all of that was untrue, and I was just one of the proof positives of that lie, you know.
In terms of the media actually taking him seriously and calling him frequently for reactions to things, do you think that's irresponsible on the part of the media? To give credibility to someone in that way?
Yeah. It's hard to say. You know, the media has a job to report. I think, you see, no, I guess in this case, if you only give him, he had that platform on TTT by force, which the regiment quickly cut off,
right,
which I think was a good idea. So if then, when he lost that, he turned to 610 radio as his mouthpiece, which was only to spew the propaganda again, then I think probably they shouldn't have given him that platform, you know. Maybe they could have asked him some questions off the air that they wanted to ask, you know, rather than just give him a platform to spout whatever he wanted to spout, you know, threats and stuff like that. So that would be my answer to that question. Yeah, they shouldn't have put him on. They should have interviewed him off the air and said what they wanted to say, yeah.
In the last 20 years, have you ever found yourself face-to-face with him?
No, thank God, no, I have not.
What would you do?
I would just give him wide berth, you know. There's nothing much I can do, you know, because I understand he's a very, I understand he has an aura and a persona which is very, not condescending, but personable, perhaps, you know, and soft-spoken and all that. And rather than have to be subjected to any kind of false friendliness and not being responsible for what kind of response I might give, I would just completely give him a wide berth, you know, for sure.
I mean, you're a very laid-back guy, but I mean, I wonder, would you even have a sort of a sense of wanting to do violence to anybody who was involved?
No.
I've never known you to be violent, of course.
Oh, yeah, well, I've known myself to be, but those in my younger days. No, I certainly wouldn't, because then, within a short space of time, it might rebound on me, because, you know, there are still people out there that were involved, you know, and I've had my moment under the gun, and I wouldn't want to go through it again. And, you know, there's, as we know from witnesses that are taken out and stuff like that, you're best just keeping a low profile as best you can, you know. So I wouldn't do so. I wouldn't. But I would like the legal process to make some kind of progress and let legal recriminations take place, you know. That would be great. I mean, when you consider that one time they were asking for thousands of dollars in some kind of compensation and all that, you know. I mean, I would like to shake our new Prime Minister by the hand and let her know what it means to me that they've taken, finally, as I said to a press reporter, and she didn't write it, and you might cut it out, but I said, we finally have a government with the balls to do something, even though it's a Prime Minister that physiologically doesn't have any, you know. And there's the inquiry and the selling off. Those are two things that I thought would never, ever happen. And look at this. Within 2 months of their tenure, people like me are saying, wow, you know, they haven't forgotten us.
Is it that she isn't afraid, or she doesn't have any skeletons in the closet, you think, and perhaps others before had?
Well, when I talk to my colleagues and other people that were involved, it's not so much not being afraid. I mean, that obviously is a point of view. But what people have suggested to me is that no other administration has ever dared to touch it because of the perceived skeletons in the closet. We finally have an administration where the devil take the hindmost. As far as they know, they have no skeletons, and what should have been done the very next year is finally being done 20 years later, you know, because this is a government that obviously there are no players involved that were players at that time, if indeed there were any. But that's a point of view that a lot of people have, that there were some players that behind the scenes, even in the corridors of power, who knew it would emerge if there's any kind of inquiry, so they're not touching it, wouldn't ever touch it. So there must be a few people quaking now in their boots, you know.
And you would testify if called upon?
Absolutely, oh yeah. I mean, this is why I'm here now. I don't necessarily relish, you know,
the media
bringing
attention,
this up, yeah. But as I explained in the beginning of our chat, you know, I really want the history of this documented from a first-person point of view, you know, eyewitness.
I want to change topics a little bit here, because you've obviously been on, we were speaking just before the program, 3 decades in the radio business.
Yeah, about 33 years yeah.
Do you get the respect that you deserve, you think, at this point? Because, I mean, as far as I know, and I'm speaking from experience, I don't know anybody who knows as much about music as Emmett Hennessy.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because, you know, as you mentioned earlier, radio announcing is a very insular profession, and that you go to work every day and they shut you up in a room on your own and you work your socks off. At least I do. In the 33 years I've been doing this, I've never ever did a shift where I didn't, with every song I played, I didn't try and think of some little clever pun to make or something to say. I never just wing it. I always, even up to now, I work my socks off trying to be clever and amusing and interesting as much as I can. And I think that might be why at my time of life, a major part of why I'm still in the business and still relevant, I hope. And also, even though it's insular, over the years, it's amazing how a man will come up to you, which to me, in my estimation, looks as old as me or younger, fairly the same age as me. He might have a pot belly and a bald head. Mr. Hennessy, I just want to tell you that when I was studying for my exams, you know, I used to listen to you every Saturday and I used to tape your songs. He was a schoolboy and I was doing my job, you know. And over the years, I get a lot of that. And people tell me what my countdown, which I used to do for many years, meant to them in the days when you didn't get the latest music anywhere else or the information, you know.
Well, to many of us, you wrote the soundtrack for our lives, didn't you?
In a way, yeah. And it's amazing just how many people genuinely come up to me, and they don't probably realize what that means to me, you know. It validates, because the company I work for didn't pay me any extra for that extra work I did. My wife and I used, every Saturday morning, we'd get up early with documents, and she would assist me, and I would quote things, and she'd write them down for me, the numbers and all that. We did that for 20-odd years, 25, 27 years, and work, just to present a good program. And the company didn't really appreciate it, but the populace did, and many people grew up through that and learned a lot about music.
I'm one of those people,
well,
as well.
Thank you very much.
We're in the final few minutes of the program, and I know, as a musician as well, and you still perform regularly.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
You've written a song.
The very next day I wrote a song.
Perhaps, and I see you brought your guitar with you.
Yeah,
so
well, I thought we'd give it...
Not as spontaneous as it seems, but I mean, you have the guitar there.
No, because, well, the song hasn't been aired for 20 years. I wrote that in my second day, after, on the 28th of July, after the coup, attempted coup, I was up by my brother-in-law, Peter O'Connor. They very kindly took me in because my wife was abroad and I didn't want to go home alone, you know. So, I had a guitar up there, an old guitar, and I just sat there in therapy, and I wrote a song. And later on, it was actually recorded and put on a CD and everything like that, you know. It was called The Boys in Green because it was a tribute to the regiment, who at the time were my big heroes, and the police, who were the boys in blue and grey. Nowadays they wear dark blue, they're all tactical now, but blue. So the song was called The Boys in Green, with a PS, the boys in blue and grey, you know. And the song is unchanged since then. I never sing it. I'm going to try and remember it for you if you want me to give it a try.
I'm looking forward to it now, yeah.
So should go ahead?
Of course, yes.
Right. Kind of slow, but it's a very personal song. day came, a great shame, a day we thought we'd never see. Where is our country? Is it still La Trinity? Is it home for you and me? Will there still be smiling faces hanging out in friendly places like before the war? Will there be more? A day came, a great flame, burning through democracy. Fire threatening freedom and our lives of liberty. Could our people still be free? Free to pray to God on Sunday, free to play on Carnival Monday, free to say, this is our way, you can't take it away. But now that fire has burned away, and we'll find time to kneel and pray. Join hands with me. Let's say a prayer for those boys in green and blue and gray, for giving us a brand new day. The day came, it was a sad game, and played by boys just 17. Who were the losers? Well, could there be a winning team? Said goodbye to wife and family. I asked the Lord, please take me in. Oh, but I've lived to see tomorrow, and so I sing this song of praise to the boys in green and blue and gray. They saved our day, we'll be okay, for them I pray.
Emmett Hennessy, you're a national treasure. Thank you so much for being on the program.
My pleasure.
It's been our pleasure. You've been watching One on One. Join us again tomorrow for another edition.